Welcome to Honest HR. I'm Marjorie Morrison, SHRM's Executive in Residence for Mental Health, and also your special guest host for this episode. Today, we're discussing how HR teams can support women's mental health as part of an inclusive workplace culture. We're grounding our conversation with 3 data points. Number 1, 59% of CHROs surveyed by SHRM said that they expected greater focus on mental health this year. Number 2, 30% of workers told SHRM they'd take a pay cut for better mental health support. And number 3, 42% of women told Gallup their job has negatively impacted their mental health versus 37% of men. So there's clearly a lot to talk about here. So joining me to work through all of this is Tamla Oates-Forney, CEO of SHRM Linkage. Welcome to Honest HR, Tamla.
Thank you for having me.
So let's just get started because I know this is going to be such a great conversation. To give our audience some background, can you tell us a little bit about the mission of SHRM Linkage and how one of its specialties is supporting the unique needs of women at various stages in their leadership journeys?
Absolutely. So SHRM Linkage is a talent and leadership development organization that's really focused on partnering with businesses to help them optimize the talent in the workforce. And like you said, our superpower is focusing on the advancement of women in the workplace, but it's not at the exclusion of men. We've just been at this for over 35 years and focused on women for the last 26 years.
Wow. Wow. So of all the challenges and obstacles that you mentioned, and certainly there's a lot of stress in women's lives, right? As far as how that stress manifests in women, I have my own thoughts, but I'd love to hear yours first.
Well, I have a personal story, quite frankly. I have been a CHRO of multiple Fortune 500 companies. And back in November of 2023, I had my own health scare that was brought on by stress in the workplace, right? And as a CHRO, I think studies have shown that aside from the CEO job, the CHRO job is probably the most stressful job in the C-suite. And so having that job, I was working 14, 16-hour days every single day, not taking a vacation and really running on a hamster wheel. My sleep was disrupted because I was constantly thinking about work and just stressed out, going. You know, my mind was telling me, I can do this. I've always done hard things, but my body said not so much. And so one day when I was in the office preparing to speak at an all-employee meeting, I began to have chest pains, really bad chest pains, and I knew something wasn't quite right with me. I was immediately rushed to the clinic that was on site. I had 2 EKGs performed, and they said you needed to go to the ER immediately because it showed that you had a mild heart attack.
Oh my gosh.
I was like, that can't be the case. Not me. I mean, I was working out every day. I'm vegan. I don't smoke, don't drink. That could not be the case. And so as fate would have it, it wasn't a heart attack, but it was a stress-induced anxiety attack. And so if it could happen to me, it could happen to anyone. Right. And so that was a personal story that happened to me. And I just vowed to really figure out what did I need to do to change my life so that I would not have those episodes anymore or put myself in harm's way, because I was very fortunate that it wasn't a heart attack this time. But if I didn't do anything to change the stressful environment that I was operating in, it could have been different.
Wow. Thank you so much for sharing that story. I'm curious, and I think our audience would be curious, what kinds of things did you change?
Oh, my goodness. So one, I changed jobs. I changed my profession. And so I retired as a sitting CHRO because I knew that job was not going to be less stressful anytime soon.
Right. This was like a wake-up call.
It was a wake-up call,
you.
Literally and physically. It was a wake-up call for me. So I decided to retire out of the profession as a CHRO. Still, obviously, I'm working, but I'm working in a different capacity, leveraging my skills and, my expertise to still focus on talent development. So I changed jobs. And then I committed to working out every day, still monitoring my stress, monitoring, my triggers, and making sure I was truly, truly balanced, and also shutting off when it was time to shut off, and I moved home So I was living in San Antonio, Texas with my husband and family, and I decided to move back home. So I recently returned home for a couple of reasons. One, because I wanted to be closer to family because we were not living close to family, and because my mother is ailing and aging. And my sister was bearing the responsibility of taking care of her, so much so that she almost had a nervous breakdown.
Wow.
Caregiving.
Wow.
And so there are three of us, and my sister was doing the brunt of the work. And so I moved back home as well to, be present in my mother's life to help alleviate some of the stressful and mental burden that my sister was carrying by taking care of our mom. So made a lot of life changes, and I'm back at home, and
I'm so impressed. Yeah, I'm so impressed with you. But I'm so curious. Did you find, or do you find now that you know what those warning signs feel like when you're getting stressed? Like with these changes that you made, are you able to kind of check in with yourself and say, I need to slow down?
Absolutely. One, sleep deprivation. So can I sleep? I try, and I usually have my Fitbit on, but I don't have it on right now, but I monitor my sleep, my sleep patterns to make sure that I'm sleeping at least 6 hours a night. People like, you need 8, but normally I get 6 to 7. And before it was like 3 to 5, and it was very intermittent. I would wake up and not even realize I was waking up at night. So I monitor my progress. I work out every day. And then I also, have accountability partners to make sure that we are working out, that we are taking time for self-care and things of that nature. So having the level of accountability and just being present with my family. So I used to miss things before because I was so committed to being in the office and doing the work, so much so that I miss things. And I'm present with my family now, even like family dinners and things of that nature. So the accountability, monitoring my vitals, and just making sure that I am prioritizing myself and my well-being.
That is so great. So knowing that, do you have advice for HR professionals to help them mitigate stress or their mental health in their own lives?
Well, I think you have to know yourself, know what your limits are, set boundaries, and make sure you're role modeling the behavior that you want your teams to adhere to as well. Do not ignore the signs. If you're having sleep deprivation, if you're having anxiety, I used to have the Sunday scaries, like literally on Sundays after church, after dinner and things like that. When I was preparing for Mondays, I began to have anxiety about preparing for Mondays because I knew that my calendar, it was like from the time I got to work until the time afterward, I had back to back meetings. And so monitor that. And then I think also I would say get an accountability partner, either on your team or a peer that can check you when you're not quite yourself, or if you're like burning the candles at both ends and really don't see how that is impacting how you show up in the workplace. So those are some of the things.
Those are great. Those are really great strategies. And you almost have to allow yourself to be vulnerable, with the accountability partner and to have trust and, for both of you, for each other.
I got to tell you, when I shared my story about my anxiety attack that I thought was a heart attack, and I shared it with other women, my team knew obviously because it happened so publicly in the workplace. But when I shared that, I was really, really surprised to know that so many other people were going through the same thing, but they were suffering in silence. And stress is a silent killer. It will kill you. And that causes a lot of other challenges, mental health challenges, physical health challenges, et cetera. So,
I always say that, when you share your lived experience, you create a space for other people to make it okay for them to share theirs.
For some reason, people think that those of us that are in the C-suite or CHROs, they think we're superhuman, that we don't have some of the same struggles that others have, or that we're, I don't know, we're superhuman, but we have the same struggles that everybody else has. And so when we talk about our transparency, one, I think it's freeing. It's been freeing for me, but it makes it okay for others to share.
I love that. It's like it benefits both of you, which is so nice.
Absolutely.
More specifically, you mentioned caregiving. Do you have any tips for HR teams or HR people who are managing and working with women who have these dual roles?
Yeah, I think here's what I think. Now it's become more of a prominent topic of conversation.
Yeah.
Whereas before, again, people were making it work, suffering in silence and doing it in silence. But because it's now become such a prominent topic, a lot of HR, a lot of companies are infusing benefits into their total rewards program to offer, caregiving benefits, whereas before they didn't. So I think making it okay to talk about. And so again, me sharing my story about me moving back home to be closer to my ailing mom and having caregiving duties with my mom makes it okay for my team to share what they're going through. So creating a space where people can talk about their needs, and also creating a space where people can infuse how they live into how they work. And a lot of that also involves taking care of not only your children, but your aging parents, right? And so I think, again, not just creating the space, but also looking at your benefit and your total rewards offering to ensure that it's inclusive of giving people the opportunity to care for their parents. And a lot of companies now are moving to kind of this unlimited PTO. And so you can use it not just for vacation, you can use it for caregiving and things of that nature. So I think now it's not taboo to talk about it anymore because so many people are experiencing it. And if you have caregiving responsibilities, it could impact your ability to perform at work, right? And so if you're able to talk about it and you have resources around you to help you through it, it makes for a better employee experience, and you show up better at work.
So do you feel like those, because I am so excited that we are focusing on it now, right? And I think what I hear you saying is that back in the day, it wasn't even something that anyone talked about. No. Now it's such a big part of our life. And I've heard someone say 3 out of 4 employees have some kind of caregiving responsibility. Like what else can companies do? I mean, so it sounds like you're saying unlimited PTO is one of them, creating an environment for people to talk about it. Are there other things?
I think you got to look at, again, your total rewards offering and look at what are some of the benefits that are available now that were not beneficial before, not a part of the benefit package, and see what you can infuse in terms of your offerings to your employees. I think that's something that they can do. And I think also creating space for people to share best practices. Because, I mean, just last week, 2 weeks ago, one of my employees had an issue with their mom and had to fly out of the country to go to make sure that their mom was okay. Wow. And so creating flexibility for them to be able to work from anywhere versus being in the office all the time. And so I think creating that flexible work arrangements that they need in order to care for their aging parents or their ailing parents when they need to, and make it okay for it to happen, And I think she felt comfortable sharing what she was going through because I shared so much about myself. So
it's really like talking the talk and walking the walk, right? So when we think about inclusive workplaces, is that a similar kind of a strategy that you would talk about? Like what we would do for caregiving? And is that the same for any kind of issue that someone might have?
I think, inclusive work environments create space for everyone to contribute and succeed. And knowing your population, you need to really understand what are their needs, right? Assess what their needs are in terms of, and being able to infuse how they live into how they work, and see what resources. There are a lot more resources available to address mental health, to address caregiving and things of that nature than they were before. So I think that's very important. One of the things I think as well that companies should look at the data. Look at data and what does the data tell you need to do? So you don't want to just put new programs in place for the sake of putting it in place. But I remember when I was a CHRO, and one of the things we were noticing is that our healthcare claims were increasing rapidly. And if you look at the reasons behind it, mental health was a huge driver of those claims. And then you have to ask yourself, why is that? And what can we do that's in our realm of responsibilities as employers to help mitigate some of those issues and challenges, right? And then, then if you look at your absenteeism, why are people absent? Is it because their kids are sick? Is it because their parents are sick and they're trying to juggle? Then you look at the data to say, well, maybe because we are experiencing a high degree of absenteeism because people are having to go care for their parents. What can we do to help address that? Such as, not limited to, but such as providing more flexible work options so that they can do both and versus either or, right?
I think that's so great. And that can be for leadership too, right?
Absolutely. It's for all employees, irrespective of your level, irrespective of your gender, ethnicity. It's for all employees. And our goal and our role as HR professionals is to make the workplace work for everybody. And to the extent it's not working for everybody, again, you got to ask yourself why and what can you do in order to reverse whatever negative trends that you're seeing, right? So leverage data and insights to help shape and inform what you need to offer to ensure that you are creating a space where everybody can thrive.
I love this concept of linkage, right? I love the fact that you get to empower, right? And it sounds like women now are this that women have always been this incredible focus. And you're going to make such a difference in these lives. Can you share with us some things of your day-to-day that you've done or that you've gotten to work on that you make you feel really proud or that other HR professionals could kind of use in their own work to emulate?
We're really looking at, again, how do you optimize talent in your workplace, right? And to the extent, you're not optimizing the talent, then how can we help you create programs and interventions to change that trajectory? For instance, women make up 47% of the workforce. That's fact, right? We make up 47% of the workforce. And we are the most educated in the workplace. But if you look at the level of matriculation throughout leadership roles and ranks, we're not matriculating at the same rate as men, as evident by the fact that if you look at the Fortune 500 CEOs, only 11.6% of them are women. So you have to ask yourself, why is that? If women are such a significant part of the workforce, but they haven't matriculated at the same rate throughout the workforce, why is that? Is there something systemic going on in your organization that's preventing them from advancing at the same rate, right? And so we help assess what's going on in a respective organization and, what are some of the development programs we can put in place, sponsorship programs that we can train leaders on, mentoring programs that we can train leaders on, coaching that we can implement that could help reverse that trajectory. Because as an organization, especially given what's going on in the workplace, in the workforce, if you look at workforce participation rates, they're declining. If you look at the labor pool is shrinking. We're retiring more people than we're adding to the workplace.
Wow.
And if you look at skills, there are skills gaps. So we have a labor shortage. So throughout any company, if you want to win, you have to make sure you're maximizing your talent. And if you look at your pool of talent and there is an underutilization of that talent, that's where you need to focus.
Right.
And studies show oftentimes women are underutilized. It's not because women don't have the capability to grow and learn and lead.
Right.
There may be other things that's preventing them from doing so. Right.
Yeah, it's so interesting to think about. Sometimes I've spent the last, 14 years being a CEO. And I often led with what they call sort of, this authentic leadership. We talk a lot about that. But sometimes I think companies aren't ready for that. And women do that. Not that men don't, but women, I personally think, have an easier time to say, oh, I'm not sure I understand that. Can you help me with that? Or can you, we show vulnerability a little bit easier. I don't know if this is factual, but that's my experience. And so I love how you started this by saying we're not inclusive to just women, because the idea of empowering women, right, and helping them succeed and grow is also not making them have to be like a man, right? Or not act like a man, but leaning into their talents. And that might mean, like you said, the caregiving stuff or parenting or things that they might be juggling more.
I just think I would love to look at leadership agnostic of gender or ethnicity or anything like that. What are the leadership attributes that you look for in a leader, irrespective of who it is? And then how do you assess talent against those things? And that's what women should be assessed against. We're great leaders who happen to be women.
Right.
So we're leaders first.
Right.
And so I think companies, it would behoove them to really articulate what makes a good leader in this company. What are the attributes that do? And then how do we assess all talent against that?
Mm-hmm.
And where we see discrepancies, you have to ask yourself, why is there a discrepancy?
Right.
Is it the system or is it the person?
Mm-hmm.
And if it's the system, then you have to work to change that to make sure that your policies, procedures, practices, development programs are inclusive and that you are accounting for
Right.
the differences that are unique for women. Like, we go have babies. That's
Right.
just an example. And
Right.
and oftentimes that takes you out of the race for could be 6 to 12 weeks. A lot could happen in 6 to 12 weeks.
Yep.
So how do you re-engage them, or
Mm-hmm.
how do you re-engage us when we come back into
Mm-hmm.
workplace having been gone to bear a child,
Right. Right.
And so you have to account for that, in your promotional processes and things like that to make sure that women are not getting left behind
Mm-hmm.
because they have a unique need or they leave for a moment of time to give birth to a child and come back into and that's just one example.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's just one example. So you have to make sure that your programs make sure that you are accounting for that absence and their off-ramp and re-entry back into the workplace doesn't put them at a disadvantage for growing and matriculating in your workplace.
It's like also just interesting to think about like the story that you shared, right? It's not about having people work all the time.
Yeah.
It's not about having it be that, you can't turn it off, right? Because that doesn't work. In the end, it's like, I've had it, right? So it's almost also, it sounds like coaching and mentoring on the balance. And I really don't like the term work-life balance because I don't actually think we're ever in balance.
I just think it's integration.
I love that.
It's integration and it's very individualized, if I should say. And I think we have to stop thinking that we're superhuman. While I was working 14, 16-hour days, I was still a wife, a mom, a caregiver from a distance because my sister, she's amazing. Like my sister is my shero. She was doing a lot of the work taking care of my mom, but I was like a financier. Like I was doing the financials, if you will, and providing support that way, but that wasn't enough. But I was doing all of that while still showing up every day to work and neglecting myself. And as I said before, my head was saying that I can do this. I've always done hard things. I can balance that. But I am 53 now, so I can't do the same things that I did at 20 and so my body shut down and said, enough is enough. I wasn't listening myself and my body shut down to say enough is enough. And, I'm glad I'm here to still be able to talk about it. But, I think you know yourself, your body, your triggers and things like that. Do not ignore them.
Right.
Do not ignore them,
I think what happens a lot of times is that we talk about mental health like it's this one thing or this one size fits all. And it's different for everyone.
It's different.
And for you, it manifested in a panic attack or anxiety attack, not uncommon for people. And when they have them, they're, it's so scary.
It's scary.
And it might manifest to someone that's really, in a different way. And I think what's important is, that's why I was asking you the question about, do you know how it feels when you're out of balance or when you're out of whack? And I think that's the key equally for HR of anyone, because sometimes it's the workload, right? But then it's also, what is that work? If it's people coming into your office and sharing really difficult stories, traumatic stories, and that then you feel like you have to fix it. Now, all of a sudden it's like, I have to fix this. And we don't need to fix things, right?
Yeah.
That most of the time when we're talking to someone, it isn't because we need them to fix it. It's because we need someone to listen. Yes.
But I will tell you that, as a CHRO, I took on the burden of other people.
That's
what I'm saying? And that's something that you can't do.
Not right.
You listen and advise and counsel, but you can't internalize their pain, their hurt, their anxiety. And oftentimes we try to do that. And that's something that I really try to say, this is within my realm of responsibility and authority. And then there are times that you have to call in professional help, And that's what I think as companies, we also have to train leaders on how, one, to recognize the signs, but also to know what their boundaries are and should be, and what tools do they have at their disposal to use, and when to defer those to professionals who do this for a living, right? And so
that's actually having the opportunity now to talk to a lot of our members and our companies. I hear that all frequently again and again and again, which is we want our managers, our people managers, our HR professionals to be empathic and to be caring, but to know when the line has gone too far.
That's right.
Because no one benefits from that, right? And then knowing where they need to go as far as for accommodations or for benefits and referring them out. And we tend to go into these fields. I'm in mental health, you've been in HR, because we care. We care about people. And we tend to be someone that people feel comfortable talking about. But it is such a hard skill that, and I think you learn it when you're, learning how to be a psychotherapist, but to not take on that pressure, not to take on fixing it, because that alone could be what can, break you in addition to the workload.
Absolutely. And I think that as HR professionals, we have to, one, make sure that we are equipped first, that we are equipping other leaders, secondly, to know what their role and responsibilities are in this regard and what resources are available to help them or at their disposal. And so that takes conscious intervention, conscious conversations to have about what to do, what not to do.
Right.
Even though some things are well-intended, that's not your area of expertise. So knowing your role is critically important. And I think HR professionals can help leaders understand that in a more deliberate way.
It's more important now than ever because what we're finding, especially with younger adults, they're coming into the workforce very comfortable sharing their mental health challenges, right? It didn't used to be that way. Now I say younger because older people have more of a stigma and they're a little bit more private, but younger people are very comfortable coming in and saying, oh, I'm neurodivergent or I have ADHD or I'm this or that. And that's now putting on this extra layer of what do we do to, manage some accommodations or things like that. So I think you're spot on with that. That training is so important.
For sure.
And I think all of it ties back to women because we also have these multifaceted lives where we're also juggling, and not that men don't. I mean, they do as well. And I'm so inspired by some of these younger couples.
I have a phenomenal husband, almost 27 years. And he, when I was traveling and doing all those things, he was there. But there are also things that I am genetically predispositioned or just because of who we are as women, like, we go through perimenopause and menopause and things like that, that really impacts our bodies, our mental well-being and all those things. And several women go through postpartum depression after giving birth to a child. And you have to be able to understand all that and understand it in the context of life and then work integrating into that.
And again, it's for yourself and for the people, that you're caring for at work.
Yeah.
Oh, Tamla, I knew this was going to be such a great conversation. And you are amazing. And I'm just grateful that you get to go do this work because I know the impact that you're going to have and that you're having.
Yeah.
And we've got to figure out how to, I love the way you framed it. And I would just say, help these women, grow into these, and sometimes I've heard men say, well, how come we don't get this kind of support? And it's like, no, but they actually do.
No, right? I'm here to support everybody. Like I said, my role and my goal is to make the workplace work for all and to help companies optimize their talent. And oftentimes women are sub-optimized if you look at that. And so how can I help them bring out the best of those that have not been optimized in the workplace? And so I would not be where I am were it not for the men in my life. So shout out to all the men
I love
for
it.
Being so supportive of me. None of us are self-made. I just think we have to be intentional and we have to use data and insights to make sure that we are focusing on the right things. We're, again, even with mental health, that we're leveraging data and insight to make sure that we are evolving our workplace to be able to address the challenges that our workers face so that they can be their best self,
Tamla, before we finish, you've given us so many great nuggets and you've shared so much. I've learned so much. What actionable kind of things feedback or advice do you have for HR professionals?
I think first and foremost, use data and insights to inform your focus. As I said before, as a CHRO, I saw how my disability claims and my healthcare claims were rising. And a key contributor to that was mental health claims. And so then you have to ask yourself why, and then you dig deeper in terms of what you should do about it. Secondly, I think equipping leaders with the tools that they need in order to understand and recognize what those things are and what the boundaries are and what they should and should not do and what resources are available to them to help their teams.
I love it. And that's going to do it for this week's episode of Honest HR. A big thank you to Tamla for sharing her deep insights with us. Honest HR is part of SHRM's HR Daily flagship content series. Head to shrm.org/HR Daily to learn more and sign up for our newsletter. You can also catch us on SHRM's social media. Like, comment, and be part of the conversation. Thanks for joining. See you next time.
SHRM.
This podcast is approved for 0.5 professional development credits, aka PDCs, towards SHRM CP and SHRM SCP recertification. Enter the following PDC activity ID in your SHRM activity portal to log your credit: 26YPVCN. That's 26YPVCN. This ID expires on June 1st, 2026.